Should nature be used for profit? Should corporations control water rights? Or should nature be protected above all else? When you look closely at a certain Simsbury tree, you can see these questions' origins in American history. The Pinchot Sycamore tree is a Simsbury staple. The largest tree in Connecticut, and being at least 200 years old, it's seen its fair share of Simsbury history. Its namesake, in his pursuits, contributed to both the splitting of the environmentalist movement and the Republican Party. Gifford Pinchot, born August 11, 1865, in Simsbury, Connecticut, the person our beloved tree is named after. A staunch conservationist, Pinchot fought for sustainability in forestry and natural resources. To Pinchot, being a conservationist meant managing natural resources so that it could be used for the long term and sustainable commercial use. He became friends with the fellow well-known environmentalist John Muir until a strong clash in philosophy. Muir's idea of federal land control was less resource-oriented. He instead advocated for protecting forests for their spiritual qualities. The damage was done in the summer of 1897. The culprit was a statement released by Pinchot to a Seattle newspaper that supported sheep grazing in forest reserves. The falling out was so great that the movement split directly into protectionalists versus conservationists. Pinchot would later become the first ever chief of the U.S. Forest Service and faced controversy from the complete opposite direction. Richard Ballinger, appointed U.S. Secretary of the Interior by President Taft, was not so fond of the sustainability philosophy, but believed in more immediate profits over the long term. Between 1909 and 1910, President William Howard Taft and ex-President Theodore Roosevelt backed their forest guys in a battle for the trees. President Taft and his predecessor, Roosevelt, had completely different views on conservation, despite being a part of the same Republican Party. Taft reversed many of Roosevelt's conservation policies, preferring to have the formerly protected lands in private for-profit use. In 1909, Pinchot publicly accused Ballinger of reversing moves from the outgoing President Roosevelt to protect private corporations from gaining control of major water sources. Meanwhile, Louis Glavis, a lawyer, looked for support from figures such as Pinchot as he began to believe that Ballinger was obstructing an investigation regarding the misuse of lands. Pinchot, who had jurisdiction over several of the investigation's claims due to his position as chief of U.S. Forest Service, helped prepare a presentation and get a meeting with President Taft. Pinchot was eventually fired by President Taft for his repeated public accusations against Ballinger. Ballinger was later exonerated, but the damage was already done. The two had split the Republican Party. In the next election, Roosevelt would run as a progressive, and Taft would run as a Republican, and, due to the split ticket, both would lose the upcoming election. Pinchot's influential conservationist conflicts are still important, and examples of each of their philosophies can be seen today. Ballinger's ideas of private ownership are exemplified by Stuart and Linda Resnick, for example, who owned the majority of the water rights in the state of California. Muir's legacy can be seen in the federal parks that he influenced the establishment of, where companies are, to this day, not allowed to use the nature for profit. And finally, Pinchot. The U.S. is much more sustainable in its profits than ever before. With U.S. Forest Service land, the U.S. can manage natural resources sustainably and allow it to be used for recreation simultaneously. The Pinchot Sycamore only exists today because no one has cut it down. Its continued existence in a town full of wooden houses is a reminder of this debate. Its dedication to one of the most influential conservationists of all time reminds us to be smart about how we use nature and what we let grow.